brush up on that stuff, Mark. That's the YouTube channel. And what this guy does is our stuff he's looking at. That's quite obvious. But I knew we had some cool stuff. These things are cloaked very, very well in the skies. And you go through these videos, you can see this stuff clear as day. As he's taking it apart, he's going into the different spectrums of it, and he's also bringing up the particles that they're spraying with these chemtrails that are coming down. It has something to do with this technology. But it's just really wild, really wild. So that's, I think everybody ought to be checking this stuff out. It's pretty crazy. It's
well,
real
number
crazy
one,
stuff.
remember, as was brought up by Bob Fletcher during the militia hearings at the Senate, they were trying to what the controlled media's job is to provide ammunition or vice versa. In other words, they'll lie about nonsense, or they'll come up with a subject that has nothing to do with perhaps what you're talking about, but the idea is to throw something out there they can be derogatory with. Well, they were Bob Fletcher and several of the guys had been up on different morning programs the day of the second militia hearing date. And the shyster, actually more than one of them, Feinstein was up there, but Arlen Spinkter said, well, you talking about weather control. And Bob smacked him square in the head. He said, well, as a matter of fact, Senator, right here in this room, Senator Pell, one of your constituents, and you've been in here long enough that you were part of this, stated uncategorically that the U.S. government was involved in weather control, and in fact, and Bob rattled off dates, times, and places. They made a mistake, a big mistake bringing it up. And old Specter there, along with the rest of the shysters, they looked at their papers, they couldn't say any more, and they sure as hell didn't want to bring it up because he said, well, right here in this room, which is true. It was right there in that particular building, in that particular room where Pell and other senators had brought up the whole weather control program. And
wow.
So the system has already acknowledged it, and then what they do is they create propaganda or antagonism against anybody who brings the subject up after they've already brought it up themselves.
Right.
The Russians brag about it. They brag about their weather manipulation on a regular basis in their own circles and in Europe. But as far as seeing it in the U.S., the last thing they want is for anybody to be talking about or discussing that here. So as far as to what degree or what they're doing to engineer an attack on the country or to manipulate the country, I believe that it is true that they are, like for instance, the grain belt states are being attacked intentionally. I don't think there's an accident to that at all. And I'm talking east of the Mississippi because Indiana and Illinois and Ohio have been hit hard, and it's been more than a few years. Go ahead.
Southern Illinois. I'm right outside, not far, about 45 minutes southwest of Chicago.
Uh-huh.
And there's something crazy. What's kind of weird is it seems like this area is not I think it's dual purpose because the fault line down there.
The New Madrid.
New Madrid. There you go. I mean, if you look at the map, right, and the infrared spectrum on it, that thing is basically outlining. The hottest part is outlining that fault line. I found that kind of crazy. And it could be coincidence, but you don't know. So I don't know.
What's funny, when we first started doing broadcasting, I've always been into stuff like this because I've got, we got U of M right here, and there's all kinds of neat things that are always being done with government money. Years ago, everybody was talking about the San Andreas fault line and how terrible it was and how big it would be with the country. And I kept pointing out, guys, the New Madrid fault line, which nobody talks about, runs right down the Mississippi River. And it angles off a bit because we get earthquakes here in Michigan, Pennsylvania. You guys feel them right there where you are because we're right along the two plates. Now, the last time that the New Madrid went off was back in pre-United States as we know it. Okay, it was back during the Voyager era in North America. The priests and the voyageurs, who of course went all up and down the Mississippi, went all through the Great Lakes. They were trying to find a northwest passage. They talked to all of the great tribes. Now, when you think tribe, don't think little Indian village with teepees off to the side. Most of the great tribes had virtual villages that were 1, 2, 10, 15 miles long and had thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of occupants. Up and down the fertile lands of the Mississippi, it was like that. Well, when the New Madrid hit the last time, which is, over 100-some years ago, more than that now, 300-some years ago, basically the river flowed upstream for a week. It killed, they estimate, the estimate by the French was that it probably killed a couple of million natives, Indians. It swamped and flooded all of the flatlands because of the way it, changed the river and water patterns. Right. And then it leveled out and went back to normal. So historically, the system knows what happens when the New Madrid truly acts up. And that's why my argument's been, well, if we have a New Madrid attack, actual engagement, an event, most people have not been prepared for it, even though, now here's another thing that's interesting, all along that New Madrid fault line, all of the construction has to be based upon the same basic engineering technology, and this has been true for many, many, many decades, based on the same earthquake design technology used in California.
Yep, they've just been, a couple of years ago I ran across that where they were updating some buildings that weren't like that. It's like when I was relocating to here, we bought this home where I'm at, I'm in Manhattan, and it was kind of weird. I'm looking at everything. It's like, okay, if this thing goes off, if I calculate right, I should either have this a block or a half a mile from my home. If that does go, I'll be having riverfront property here.
Yep.
Little planning.
Well, here's the other thing. It's like we just had this happen with the floodplains in Missouri and Arkansas. A lot of our listeners are down there where we had all of this flooding that took place. Well, we used to remember the cyclic flooding of the Mississippi and all of its tributaries. The Ohio runs into the Mississippi. The Snake. There's so many rivers, and they are part of the flood cycle. Right. Now, the reason that man, be it the Indians or, the later European settlers, put all their cabins and their houses near those floodplains is because of the fertile soil created by the flood cycle. So as far as everybody going, oh my God, it's a terrible disaster, nobody ever knew that this was going to happen, oh, stuff it. Everybody and anybody with half a brain or any brain should have understood and should understand that it's not like, oh my God, how could you build there, or what could you do there? There was a cycle process that everybody used to keep track of before we started worshiping the high gods of science and ignoring reality. Go outside and breathe a little bit. Pay attention to your environment. And what's fascinating to me is everybody knows this. This is not like, I was having an interesting discussion late last night about this, in that, everybody knows. They really do know. But to not have to face reality, we can talk ourselves out of it. You know what I mean? In other words, everybody knows the economy. I don't care if it's the economy or the environment or whatever. Everybody knows there's a problem, but it's a natural issue in most cases. But to talk ourselves out of certain things, especially facing reality, we can come up with a whole lot of other ways to deflect the mind. And some people do it to just be comfortable. In other words, I don't want to have to deal with this. It's their version of like mental Prozac.
Right? Yeah, glazed over. Right. I know exactly what you're talking about. I've been kind of busy with. I called you guys back a while ago with this Kishi Foundation technology. That's going real good. I'm actually playing with that. But a couple of years ago, I had called you up, and have you guys done any kind of experiment, any kind of work on, for direct radio communication, laser line type, using a scalar wave transmitter?
The problem with using scalar or using Tesla, in fact, we have families that's what they specialize in. We built pretty much all of Tesla's equipment at one point or another, and in fact, we've got the equivalent. They're not museums, but you can sit there with you can take some of the Tesla transmitters or just Tesla resonators, put them out in the middle of a woods, turn them on, and within 8 to 20 minutes, you will have helicopters over that site. That's how intensely they're watching those frequencies.
Right, and maybe they're able to watch these things with what I've just run across with what this gentleman's doing with these. I mean, when you guys get through this, if anybody hasn't seen this, you're going to freak. I mean, these things are right under our nose, right above our head.
What was really funny about the Tesla technology, as the guys pointed out, one of them was one of our friends. His father, of course, has been in the Tesla tech for years. Actually, all of his life. He came back from the SEALs, and of course, he got married. His wife, she's a really, really fantastic person. And as he said, when we started talking, this is years ago, we started talking about black helicopters, right? And the idea is black helicopters are simply the helicopter fleet that they acquired. They spray painted for terror, okay? Oh my God, it's a black helicopter! I feel so terrorized. What's funny is when they would turn on the units, they would do this in experiments many times. The first thing that shows up is a blue helicopter. It's funny. There are color shades, guys. And everybody was laughing because a blue helicopter shows up, typically a blue commercial light reconnaissance helicopter. All blue, no markings, no ID, no numbers, no nothing. We've watched this before. And then a red one shows up, which is really interesting, and then the black one shows up. But what's funny is, and the cycle varies, but they're solid colors. There's no paint job, there's no markings, there's no ID. Hell, not even the safety markings are on the aircraft. And most anybody who knows, there's certain, especially for military equipment, you have standard safety markings that have to be in place. All of it's gone. But what's interesting is the timing. It got down to the point when they originally were baiting these things. We can use this to our advantage. What we do is set one of the transmitters up, an expendable, and what you do is turn it on with a timer and watch to see how long it takes for something to show up. And it doesn't take hours, and it doesn't take days. It's in minutes. They'll have something in the air and hunting in minutes for some of this technology, which is fascinating to me because it tells me that, as we've argued, they're using it too, and they don't want anybody to realize the potential. Because, and I'll give you an example of this. We get the junk when it comes to radio, as far as what we're allowed to buy off the shelf.
Right.
Let me give you an example of that. Go over to any electrical appliance that you have, and I don't care what it is, if it is a sound system or if it is a transceiver, and read the cast body statement on the back of the radio. You know what it says? Must accept a specific amount of interference, and of course will generate a certain amount of interference. I mean, the statement varies, but it's all the same. And what's fascinating is, for instance, years ago, there are CB, standard CB. Here's a good one. It's so simple, it's ridiculous. Standard CB is two bands, two elements of the radio band. The original 21 frequencies, and then the add-ons, which give us another, a total of 40, right? Okay, 23 channels, forgive me, 21. 23 channels, and then the 40, okay, up to 40. There's a gap between those? They're not contiguous. They're not like from channel 1 to channel 40. There's a jump. You want to know why? Because the frequencies, the bandwidth in between, the jump, is so clean that it would be like you and me talking in this room, in the same room together. But they don't want anybody to know that, you see. So we end up with what are basically the clutter or junk frequencies that they know have a specific amount of known interference to restrict potential. Now, what's fascinating about this is when you look at, and I've done this many times, we actually have one of our operators way out beyond us out in the west converts radios over. We use mid-range Pace. We've used a number of other radios. There's several that work that are mid-price, about $127 a piece. And open them up and tweak them, and I can put 1,000 additional frequencies into that radio. And I can, without a linear and without any additional support other than a standard Antron antenna, I can sit here in Michigan and I can talk to Seattle, Washington with no linear. I could talk to anywhere in Washington State right now, and it sounds just like you're on in fact, it sounds like you're in the room. No static, no background wash, no fading, no other clutter noise. And this is all, every radio has this potential because we can tweak it and work into those frequencies, that part of the bandwidth. Now, the same is true with a lot of the other technology we have right now. We've been given kind of like the jump, the chump change, the junk, so to speak. Right. And that's really where they're going with it. So, just stuff to consider. As far as the imagery, in fact, some of the stuff that they have on the industrialsurrealism.com. Actually, it's not .com. Industrial Surrealism. It's on YouTube. One of the other things that we saw years ago, and they've been pushing this, and to me it's like a joke. Okay, they're going to throw images up there to look like something, right? Like, well, look, we got a UFO, or look, we got... Okay, guys, I'm sorry. We're in the age of technology where, okay, so you've got some ghost holo image you've created of, like, remember out west in Phoenix? They had the thing go over Phoenix, and everybody's like, well, look at this. I say,
yeah.
Can you see through it? Yeah. Does it look like the image is like a bad television image that, is fading in and out from bad transmission? Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about Blue Beam Project, yeah.
Well, yeah, okay. The thing is that it's all, okay, what they're doing is experimenting with and practicing to project stuff so that we're supposed to be awe-inspired. Well, I'm not some witch doctor with a bone in his nose from from 4,000 years ago. And to me, most everything, having worked in this area, from the donut of destruction end, I was stationed down at Fort Huachuca, and when we heard about this and we started to see this, as I pointed out, it's like all the other experimentation. When they have an image projection technology, they got to take it to where it's very hot and muggy, very hot and dry, very cold and damp, and very cold and dry. And if you look at where they did all this and they threw this stuff up there, it's not space aliens. It's them trying to project space aliens and try to create confidence, and there's none. I mean, as I pointed out to several people, it's like, well, you could see through the image, right? Yeah. So were you scared by it? Well, it looked like something. Okay, wait a minute, back up. You could see through it. It wasn't tangible. And then you agree that we have all this psychobabble stuff they've done for the sake of trying to give us a War of the Worlds scenario. Well, is it real or is it fake? Well, it looked fake, but it was really big. It's like, well, who cares whether or not it's really big if it's a projected image?
Right, or it could have been just a big, huge blimp with some crazy stuff going on it. Yeah, I agree with you 100% there.
In other words, well, it's like yawn. It's like, well, it's going to look like, the space aliens or the devil or whatever. It's like, yep, I guarantee they're going to try and do that. You know what?
Right.
When the space alien shows up in front of me, I'm going to shoot him twice, take a big steel rod, stuff it up his fundamental orifice, have it come out of his head, run him over to the barbecue pit, stick him up on that, and we'll find out how he tastes.
Yeah, I'll bring the ketchup.
And you know what's funny? It's amazing. It's like a rubber suit, and then it got into squishy stuff on the inside. Aw, you mean he's a fake space alien? Oh, well, I think we'll just barbecue him anyway. We're not going to eat him, but they'll find plenty of barbecue, little empty barbecue containers. How do you know when a space alien's done, even if it's a guy in a space alien suit? Well, when you got him on the rotisserie spit and the arms and legs stop flopping and they twist around and crinkle up next to the rod, you know you got him cooked right. Make sure you use lots of barbecue sauce to give him that golden brown outer texture over his latex. Okay? That's the attitude everybody should have on this across the board, because I don't care if it's the devil. Congratulations. I throw you down in the name of Jesus Christ, and by the way, I'm gonna spit behind that a couple of 30 caliber rounds just to be safe. How do you feel now, devil? Oh, you mean it wasn't the devil? You mean it's a faker? Well, maybe it's one of the devil's minions. You know what? He died anyway. That really goofy red suit he was wearing was really a stupid idea. Because you know they're going to do that. They're going to be, we are the gods of the, we're the minions of the devil. Pop, pop, pop. Wow, the minions of the devil die just like everybody else. How do you like that? Hold still, devil. But. I guess it wasn't the devil after all. A bunch of fakers who are trying to pull BS to, terrorize us all. Instead, the attitude has to be, let's be Americans. The space technology isn't space technology. Most of it is stuff where they're throwing stuff out there, again, to try and fiddle fart with everybody. And a lot of it is just, if you don't talk about it, people are supposed to forget about it. It's like rigid airship. Everybody thinks Zeppelin. Consider that rigid airship technology with modern plastics and modern goodies, all the neat stuff that we have today, guys, you can make them look like anything.
Oh yeah.
What do you want to make it look like? What do you want it to project? We've argued that for years. Everybody has been retarded in terms of, and I'm not talking about retarded as in stupid. I'm talking about as retarded in terms of thinking beyond the limited boxes they've created. And it's not that it's hyperspace technology or anything that couldn't be blown out of the sky. It's the idea we're supposed to be so awestruck. We're going to go, whoa, dude. Wait a minute, let me try one of those shoulder-fired air defense missiles on that thing. Bow! Hey, I guess that worked after all. Oh, they're all screaming and jumping out of the wreckage. Oh, those poor buggers. Well, terrible way to die. Hey, let's go find another one.
There you go. Yeah, I really be looking forward to your opinion on this after you go through it and look at everything.
Absolutely.
I listen to you religiously every morning, brother.
Well, thank you for bringing it forward. Appreciate that. Now, tell you what, why don't you close with me? You're right here. God bless the Republic. Death of the New World Order. We shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The Empire's on the run. We're in the march. Phyllis Schlafly coming up next. Grab that cup of coffee, get off to work. Otherwise, we're heading to the top of the hour. We'll be back in a little bit for the second hour of the Intel Report. It's Tuesday.